All right, so this is the chat client we have, which is connected to the HANA database and also to the Claude LLM. All right, so here we have a lot of options. I'm going to walk you through this in just a second. So just want to let you know that this is the chat client we'll be using. And here we have the SAP HANA database, the vector store, and these are the policy documents which we're talking about. And as you can see, this is the chunk, this is the text which we have in the table, and this is the actual vectors, right? So I just want to show you some context. And we also have the cloud platform which we're using to reason on this grounding. Really good stuff. So let's get to the setup. So this is the basic overall idea. So we have a question you want to ask, and we have two modes in the chat client itself. And also, just for understanding the emphasis or the importance of grounding, is you send the question directly to the LLM and you see the response, and then you send the question with the grounding to the LLM, and then we see the response. Most of us understand about grounding. In the absence of grounding, basically you're just sending the question to LLM, and the LLM, in this case Claude, or it could be any LLM out there, you could have your own LLM if you have, is going to answer from its training data, right? So it may or may not know. In most cases, it may not know exactly the answer which you're looking for, and it's just going to fabricate and hallucinate and things like that. And that's not really the outcome which we are looking for. Now, before we proceed with the experiment, I just want to quickly take you to the chunks. So this is how our chunks look like. So we have 11 chunks which have been broken down from 3 documents, right? And we have different categories of the documents, rather 3 specific documents: credit policy, earning report, and risk register. And we have extended this with a bunch of metadata which we use for filtering, governance, context, lifecycle management, and more. We'll see all of this in the coming videos. All right, so this is how the chunks look like. So we have credit policy, earning report, and risk register, right? So all the answers are available in this. And we also see an example where we update the context from the version 1 to version 2, which contains the answers. So this also gives us a little bit more sneak peek into the different steps of context lifecycle management. All right, so much for it. So these are the questions we have, and this is what we're going to be asking, right? So first we will perhaps try and ask the question directly without the grounding directly to the LLM, and then we'll toggle and use the grounding from the HANA database. Really good stuff. Okay, let's start with the first one, which is is our commercial real estate concentration currently within policy limits? Okay, so that's the question we need to answer. So I'm going to go to my chat client here, and just to give you a quick preview, this is the chat client we have, and these are the credentials. We are the HANA credentials, the Anthropic credentials, and this is the toggle. And we also have a little bit of parameters which we have brought to the surface. And in terms of temperature and max tokens, there are other parameters which are embedded inside the code itself, which we are not bringing to the surface at this point. Okay, so let's go ahead, and of course I've been testing, so let's first test the HANA connection. All right, so it's connected. As you can see, it's actually bringing back the information as to how many chunks are available in that specific table. Okay, so the first thing is we wanna toggle it, right? So here it is. Now, it's not using the answers or the grounding from HANA, and it's just directly going to send that question to Claude, and it's going to expect an answer, right? So let's go ahead and do it. So I'm just asking this question, and this is going to be sent directly to the Claude. Okay, so let's see how it works. Is our commercial real estate concentration currently within policy? Probably I can add in the Vantara name if you like. Okay, so there you go. I don't have access to your organization's current commercial real estate portfolio data or your specific policy limits, right? That's pretty good. Information required, current commercial real estate exposure amount, typical context. So basically, it's basically telling us that it does not know, and this is because we have used in the system prompts very nice and tailored prompts which tell the LLM not to extend itself if it does not know the answer, and to explicitly say that it does not know the answer, right? So those guardrails we will discuss in the coming videos as well. All right, so showtime. I mean, if you just want to test it, you can ask whatever it likes. For example, what is the capital of United States of USA, right? So as you can see, it's directly asking, and it actually tells you the capital of USA is Washington DC. Okay. All right. Okay. Now let's do the grounding, and let's try now. Okay. Is our commercial real estate concentration currently within policy limits? So obviously, the Vantara company is in the database. So let's see how this responds. So retrieving from HANA. So the query went to HANA. The context package was assembled, is sent to Claude, and now the Claude reasons and responds from that specific grounding, right? So now let's see what it says. It says the commercial real estate concentration is currently within policy, which is what we need. It also tells how it knows. It cites the source, which is basically a chunk from the database itself, right? So indicates the CRE exposure has been reduced to 23.4%, which is now within 25%. So really good stuff. So you actually got the accurate answer, and this is the package which is sent to the Claude, right? These are the sources. So source one, and if you can read the source, it tells you right about here, medium. And if I continue reading, it says right about here, CR exposure has been reduced to 23.4%. Okay, so that's the answer straight from the corpus. Great. So the pipeline which we have built, and the corpus and the context store which we have built, is a small example, but the concept and the steps remain the same. Of course, the volume is going to change, the methods are going to change, of course, and so many other variables are going to be added, but the fundamentals remain. So you can extend the same pipeline fundamentals for your specific use case. Okay, let's continue with the experiment here. So I also have retrieve chunks, and I also want to take a look at this real quick. Why? Because it also gives me the relevant score, right? So it tells me exactly what the score was and why the LLM used these specific chunks. So in terms of governance and in terms of accountability and auditability, these pieces of information is very, very important. All right. So much for that question. So let's continue. So what approvals are needed to execute new credit facility of 60 million EUR? So this is a more open-ended question. So let's go ahead with the question, and perhaps increase the chunks to 5. There you go. And we also have filter, but I'm not going to use the filter. I wanted to run through all of the chunks. So let's do that. Now, if you have a larger context store, using the filter is very, very important, because it's going to reduce the load on the database and improve the accuracy as well. All right, there you go. We have the answer. So based on the provided context for new credit facility EOR, the following approvals are required. Okay, so dual sign-up is required from both the chief risk officer and head of credit. So where did it find this information? It found this in the source one, and how I can find that out? I can easily go and find that out right about here. Okay, really good stuff. And in this specific scenario, we have 5 chunks, and as you can see that the score is different, and all these chunks are right about here. Really good stuff. So let's finish the experiment. Maybe I'll take another one question. I think we get the idea. Last question, and I'm going to reduce it back to 3. All right, let's see what it asks. Okay, can the firm sustain operations under a severe stress scenario without accessing capital markets? That's also an open-ended question. Basically, is asking about the reserves the company is maintaining. Let's see what the answer is. Based on the provided context, yes, Vantara Capital Group appears positioned to sustain operations under a severe stress scenario without accessing capital markets. How that how did it come to the conclusion? Because it's mentioned in source 1 that it indicates the firm maintains a liquidity buffer of 2.1 billion. So that's a lot of money. I mean, in terms of the company's liquidity, I think it also says the number of operation. There you go, 180 days of operation. So they can sustain operating for 180 days, right? So that's the whole idea. And continuing, it also says that shows the firm has a committed revolving credit facility of 500 million EUR, which is also very, very important, right? And then finally, the ratio. And how did it come to this conclusion? From all these different chunks. Okay, great. So let's see that, let's look at the logs. So our logs should be pretty active right now. So as you can see, all these queries have been hitting the Claude console from the chat. Really, really good stuff. Really great stuff. And this is, and just before ending the experiment, I would also like to show the Streamlit app which we're using, which is basically running on my local machine. Alright, so now this diagram probably will make more sense. What we did before is hit the LLM directly, and then we hit the LLM with the context from the context store, and we saw the difference and why that was so important in terms of the accuracy of the answer. So that's what we're going to be doing in this course. Is we're going to be building the entire pipeline on the background, not so much focus on the chat client itself. We'll have other courses for that, but we will build the entire context store on the SAP HANA vector store, and then we'll extract and we'll see how to chunk it, embed it, and retrieve it. We'll run through different algorithms. In this specific case, is going to be pretty much cosine search. We're going to assemble the context package, and then we're going to send it to Claude and get the answer. So a lot of exciting things happening. First, we will spend a good amount of time on the HANA database directly, running SQL and running this, building the store, context store, if you will. And then we will switch to Python notebooks, and we'll see how to connect this grounding to the Claude API, and continue with the experiments. Really exciting stuff. I'll see you in the next video.